This conference will now be recorded.
In the previous session, we started discussing about variables. There are three types of variables. One is local variables. What do you mean by local variables? Variables which are declared inside method or constructor, those are the local variables. Okay. The visibility of the local variables is within that block. Within that block. Instance variables is nothing but which are declared at the top of the class. At the top of the class, then those are called instance variable. The visibility of the instance variable is throughout the class. Throughout the class. In that class, we can use anywhere. Anywhere. Now coming into static variable. Now coming into static variable. Okay. I'm trying to logging into the developer console. Go to the execute anonymous window. Okay. Go to execute anonymous window. Now coming into here the static variables. Okay. Static variables. Okay. First of all, static is a keyword. Class is a keyword, right? New is a one keyword, right? Okay. Like that, static is a keyword. Static is a keyword. We will apply. We will apply this keyword to methods and to variables. Okay. Variables plus blocks also. Variables, methods, blocks. Okay. Blocks. What is blocks? We'll discuss. So first of all, static is a keyword. Static is a keyword. We have class is a keyword, right? Like that, static is a keyword. And we will apply this keyword, this static keyword to the variables, methods, blocks. Variables, methods, blocks. First of all, coming into here, I'm trying to declaring one class demo static. This is my class name. Class is a keyword. Open curly braces, close curly braces. Now I am trying to declaring one variable. Integer I am trying to declaring. Generally, where we have to do initialization? Initialization means assigning some value to this particular variable. We can do in the same line. Sorry, we can do in the same line, but that is not the best practice. So always we should do initialization at the constructor level. Constructor is nothing but same name as a class name. Okay, same name as a class name. Whenever we are trying to executing this class, whenever we are trying to executing this class, what is the entry point for this class? I mean, from where the execution it will start. From the constructor execution it will start. So that's why initialization, for variable initialization, always we will do at the constructor level. Always we will do at the constructor level. Now I am trying to declaring one more method. So my what is my method name? Any name. So method name, open curly braces, close curly braces, and this method what it will do? It will return any result or it will not return any result. So it will not return any result. Then what I will do? I will do void only. I will do void. It will not return any result. It will not return any result. Then why we are writing a method means we'll discuss. Okay, we'll discuss. Here I am trying to printing this I variable. I am trying to printing this I variable. Now I have one more method. I have one more method. Integer. The return type is nothing but integer, and this is my method name. And here I am trying to using that variable system.debug and method okay plus I okay plus I. So finally this is my class. In this class we declared one instance variable. Initialization we did at the constructor level. We are using that variable. In this method we are using, and in this method we are using, okay. Now I will just go and declare one more variable. My variable name is nothing but integer I2, integer I1, integer I1. Beside that, I will use static keyword. Beside that, I will use a static keyword. Static keyword. So initialization, I will just go and use at the constructor level. Initialization, I will just go and use at the constructor level. So initialization, I will just go and do at the constructor level. Okay, that is common. Okay, so this is a static keyword I am using. So then this is nothing but a static variable. Static variable. This is a static variable. So what is the difference between instance variable and static variable means we'll discuss. So this is instance variable, this is called static variable. Why it is called a static variable? We are using a keyword that is nothing but static. Static is a keyword that we will apply to the variables and methods. Now coming into here method, I will just go and use static, then this is called static method, then this is called static method, this is non-static method, this is non-static method. So this is non-static method. So static is a keyword we will apply to the variables and we will apply to the methods. Okay, fine. Then the next step is, suppose I want to call this integer I variable, we want to call m2 variable, we want to call m1 variable, we want to call m1 variable, we want to call I1 variable. How to call? So I want to execute this class. While executing this class, I want to use I variable. I want to use I1 variable. I want to use M1 method. I want to use M2 method. How we are going to use? How we are going to use is nothing but, first of all, we have to create an instance, right? First of all, we have to create an instance, right? How to create an instance? New class name here. New class name. So then the system automatically it will execute this constructor, right? Then what is my next step? I want to call I variable, I want to call I1 variable. So we should need a reference right here. We should need a reference, that is nothing but any name. I will just go and declare a variable, and beside that we have to use a class name, right? We have to use a class name here, because of this is a this particular class type. So we are getting a reference for this particular class. Now I want to call this particular variable. How to call? D dot I. Okay, D dot I. Now I want to call this I1 variable. Now we want to call this I1 variable. D dot I1. But this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Okay, this is wrong. Suppose we want to call static variable. Suppose we want to call static variable whenever we are trying to creating an instance, and by using that reference we are calling, right? This is wrong. This is wrong. So now coming into here, I will explain. Now coming into here, I want to call this m1 method. I want to call this m1 method d dot m1 method. This is also wrong. This is also wrong, because of this is a static method. This is a static method. Now I want to call m2 method d dot m2. Yes, this is correct. This is correct. Okay, this is correct, but this is wrong. Static variables, this is wrong. Static method, this is wrong. Okay, so first of all, we want to call static variable or static method. First of all, we want to call static variable or static method. How we will call is nothing but by using class name only. No need to create any instance. Suppose we want to call static variable, static variables, static methods, okay, static methods. Then by using class name dot variable name. Suppose we want to call a method, okay, by using class name dot method name. No need to create any instance. No need to create any instance. Static is a keyword. We will apply static keyword to the variables and methods plus blocks. Okay. So suppose we declared one variable as a static. Suppose we declared one variable as a static. Suppose we declared one method as a static. Now we want to call that variable. Now we want to call that particular method. How to call? No need to create any instance. Okay, no need to create any instance. Directly we'll just go and use the class name. Directly we'll just go and use the class name. What is my class name? Demostatic dot I1. Okay, class name dot variable name, class name dot method name, class name dot method name. This is Salesforce defined syntax. This is Salesforce defined syntax. Suppose we want to call a static variable or static method, no need to create an instance. Suppose I will create an instance by using that reference. Suppose we will call, then it will display an error message. Boss, static variable we will not call like this. static variable, static methods we will not call like this. So by using class name dot that variable name, by using class name dot that particular method name. Now, what is the purpose of static variable? What is the purpose of static? What is the purpose of static? That is our next question. What is the purpose? What is the purpose of static? Okay, what is the purpose of static? Assume that I have one class. Okay, assume that I have one class. My class name is nothing but A. Okay, my class name is nothing but A. This is my class. Okay, in this class, one instance variable is there, I is equals to 10, and one static variable is there. One static variable is there, that is nothing but S. S is equals to 20. This is one class. This is one class. Okay. Now I have another class is there. Now I have another class. That class is nothing but B. And in this class, I am trying to calling this variable. In this class I am trying to calling this variable s is equal to, I am just updating like 21. In I am trying to updating 21. Here I am trying to calling I is equals to 11. I am trying to updating. Now I have another class. Now I am another class. Class C. Okay, now in this class I am trying to, in this class I am trying to using the same variable I is equals to 20 and s is equals to 40. S is equals to 40. We have class A. In this class we have one static variable. This is nothing but a static variable, and we have instance variable. Now I have another class, class B. Now I have another class, class B. Now I want to call this A. How to call A? OA is equals to new A, and OA dot I is equals to 11. I am trying to updating here. Now suppose we want to call this static variable means class name A dot S. Okay, A dot S. Okay, here also now coming into here I have another class C. Okay, in the C suppose we want to call A variable means A OA is equals to new A, OA dot I is equals to 20. Okay, OA dot I equals to 20, and here I'm calling the same static variable S is equals to 40. S is equals to 40. Now I am trying to clicking on this button. We have one button is there. I am trying to click on this button. When we will click on this button, when we will click on this button, it will call this class A. From this class A, it will call class B. From this class B, it will call class C. Finally, from the class C, it will give the output. So finally, from the class C, it will give the output. So when we have one button is there, from the button, I'm trying to calling this class. How to call the class? Forget about that. Okay, just understand the scenario. Understand the scenario. We have one button. From the button, I'm trying to calling a class. When click on this button, internally I will make some setup. From that particular setup, it will call the class A. From the class A, again I'm trying to calling class B. From the class B, again I'm trying to calling class C. From the class C, it will perform the business logic, or finally it will give the output. It will give the output. So in the button, I am sending a request. For that request, what internal happening internally? It is calling A. From the A, it is calling B. From the B, it is calling C. From the C, it is giving the output. So it is giving the output. So I'm just requesting, and it will perform the business logic in the backend. Finally, it will give the response. So that is nothing but transaction. Transaction means I'm just requesting. My request it is processing, and once process completed, then it will give the response, right? Request response. That is technically we will call it as a transaction. Request response. For that request, it is processing. Internally, it is processing. Okay. Now coming into our static variable. Now coming into our static variable. Whenever we will click on this particular button, first it will call class A, right? Yes, class A. Whenever class A is called, here I is one variable. So what system it will do is it will allocate memory for I variable, and here it will store I is equals to 10. Okay, and at the same time static variable is also there, right? Static variable, it will allocate memory 20, and the variable is nothing but yes. The variable is nothing but yes. From this class C, again what we are doing, we are trying to calling this class B, right? I'm trying to calling this class B, right? I'm trying to calling to this class B. How to call? Forget about that. Okay, so again we are trying to calling class B. So whenever we are trying to calling class B, here we are just updating I variable. Whatever the I variable in the class A, I am taking that variable I am trying to updating to 11. Then what system it will do? What system it will do? It will not touch anything. In the class A, it is allocated memory, right? It will not touch anything. So again it will come into here, it will create a separate memory, separate memory, and here the value is 11 and here yes. Okay, here it is created and here also it is created, but latest one is what? This one, right? So here also it is creating, again in this class also it is creating, in this class also creating, but latest value for I is equals to 11 only. So latest value for I is equals to 11. Okay, now latest value for I is equals to 11. Coming into the static variable, here it is created, right? So it will not create a separate memory, it will remove this value and it will update with the 21. It will update with the 21. What I am trying to say is, whenever we will click on this button, first it will call the class A. Whenever class A is called, the system automatically create one variable. That variable name is nothing but I, and it will allocate space 10. Okay, sorry, it will allocate some memory. In that memory it will store 10 value. Okay, 10 value. Now coming into static variable, here it will allocate some memory, and here this is the value and this is a reference variable. Now from the class A, for that transaction only I am saying, for that transaction, so first it is calling class A, still my transaction not completed, again it is going into the class B. In the class B again I am using I variable, again I am using I variable. What system it will do? It will not consider this one, it will not do anything with this particular memory. Again it will create a new memory here, new memory, new space it will create, sorry, new space it will create. So new space here it will get, but whenever we are coming into static variable, it will not create it. Already it is created, it will go there and it will remove the old value and it will update here. Now coming into class C, from class B, for that transaction, for that request, we are trying to call in class C. From B we are trying to call in class C. So in the class C, what instance variable it will do? Again it will not do anything here. Again it will create a separate memory, separate space it will create, and here the value is 20 and the variable name is nothing but I. But whenever we are coming into static variable, it will remove this value and again it is updating in the same space, in the same memory only it is updating. So finally static is nothing but throughout the transaction, this is called transaction, right? I'm requesting and it is processing. For that process it will give the response, right? Request and response, request and response, this is nothing but a transaction, technically we will call it as a. So here I'm just clicking on the button. For my click, internally it is perform some logic, so that I mean internally it is processing. That processing means it is doing this, it's a transaction. So for that transaction, how many classes it will call, it doesn't matter. How many classes it will call, it doesn't matter. For static variable, only one copy of space it will create throughout the transaction. That is space only it will use, that is space only it will use, no need to create a separate space. So static means throughout the transaction, suppose we will declare one variable or one method static, throughout the transaction it will use the same copy of that memory, same copy of that memory. It will not allocate separate memory whenever each and every time we are trying to call in. Any questions on this one? Just remember, static is a keyword. We will apply to the variables and the methods. Suppose we want to call static variable class name dot that variable and class name dot that method name. Now, what is the purpose of static? Is nothing but throughout the transaction. What do you mean by transaction? I'm just requesting. For my requesting backend, it is performing something. It will perform. Finally, it will give the result. Request, processing, response it will give, that is called transaction. For my transaction, how many classes it will call, how many triggers it will call, it doesn't matter. So for my transaction, whenever we are declaring a variable as a static, only one copy of space it will create, that is space only it is used throughout the transaction. That is nothing but static. Any questions? When we will use that, we'll discuss, but we have to understand the syntax and we have to understand the purpose and how to call static variable and how to call static method. Regularly we will use static variables. Okay, we have one concept, recursive concept, To avoid that recursive concept, we will use a static variable. Why we have to use static variable? In the sense, means throughout the transaction it will create only one copy of that variable. We will use the same copy throughout the transaction. That word we have to remember. What is that real-time scenario? I will explain. Any questions related to static? Okay. Now coming into another topic. Now we are clear, right? Three types of variables, right? This is instance variable and this is a static variable. This is a static variable. For example, I will just go and declare like integer k is equals to 10. This is a local variable. The local variable means which are declared inside curly braces. See, I declared this one. This is called declaration and this is called initialization. So whenever we are declaring any variable inside curly braces, inside some blocks, then that is local to that particular constructor, local to that particular method. Visibility is we can access from here only. Okay, suppose I want to access some other method, then it will throw another message. Invisible. Okay, invisible. Instance variable means throughout the class we can use, anywhere we can use. Static variable means only one throughout the class plus only the main functionality of static is only one copy of that variable we will create. I mean, the system it will create throughout the transaction. And you have to remember, suppose I want to call static variable class name dot variable name, class name dot method name. Whenever we are coming into the real-time example, each and every syntax is useful. First of all, we have to remember the syntax. So when we will use, how we are going to apply to the Salesforce object, that we'll discuss, that you will understand. Okay, that you will understand. We will go into the next topic. Okay, now coming into here, I have one class. Okay, I have, this is my class. Class is nothing but a. In this class, I have one variable. Okay, I have one variable. My variable name is nothing but integer I. Okay, so now I want to initialize that variable. Where we will initialize? Okay, a. This is my constructor. This is my constructor. I is equals to 10. Okay, we did initialization at the constructor level. Is it mandatory? Means it is not mandatory. I will do here only, but the best practice is, so whenever we are writing a code, we have to follow some best practice. Okay, this is also correct. This is correct, but this is the best one. Why? Means whenever we are loading the class, whenever we are calling the class, that time only it will load, right? It will load, so processing time it will improve. So forget about all those things. Just initialize the variables at the constructor level. Okay, at the constructor
రమేష్
level.
గారు స్మాల్ డౌట్.
Yes, ma'am.
ఇప్పుడు మీరు టాప్ లో ఇనిషియలైజ్ చేశారు కదా వాల్యూ ఇన్స్టాంట్ వేరియబుల్ దగ్గర. అక్కడ ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 5 ఇచ్చారు. కన్స్ట్రక్టర్ లెవెల్లో మళ్ళీ ఐకి మళ్ళీ అసైన్ చేశారు వాల్యూ 10 అని. ఇప్పుడు మనకు అవుట్పుట్ లో ఇచ్చేది ఐ వాల్యూ 10 అనే కదా ఇచ్చేది.
I value 10 is it will give 10 only.
ఓకే, క్లియర్.
You have a doubt? What we will do? Suppose this is also doubt for me. What I will do? See here. So system dot debug. So whatever questions we have like this, system dot debug I plus I variable. Okay, we have to print like this. Suppose you have that question, then what we have to do? For example, coming into here, method also void m1. Okay, in that method, our question is, it will take I is a 5 or I is equals to 10. I will just go and print system dot debug I value in method. Okay, in method. Okay, whenever we have a doubt like this, we have to practice. Okay, we have to practice. Now coming into here,
స్టాటిక్ లో చెప్పారు కదా మీరు, అంటే వేరే క్లాస్ లో కూడా యూజ్ చేసినప్పుడు వాల్యూ ఎక్కడైతే అది అలొకేట్ చేసుకుంటుందని, అంటే అక్కడ దిస్ అనే కీవర్డ్ వాడతాం కదా, అంటే అక్కడ ఉన్నది అక్కడ మాత్రం వాడుకునే దానికి.
forget about that, this keywords and all those things. Static is a different one. Okay, static is a different question is this one only, Mahesh, right? So in another class, this is super, forget about those two keywords. Okay, we'll discuss. Now your it will take 10 or 5, right? Now here new a, right? Okay, new a, and here a and a. Okay, now what I will do? A, see here, I will just go and call a dot m1. Okay, a dot m1 method we will call, and we will try to execute this one. We will try to execute this one. Go to here, execute this one, execute highlighted. Now go to here debug logs. Automatically it will open the debug logs, right? It will print each and everything. Go to here debug only. I value is what? 10 only here it is taking, right? So now we are clear, right? So whenever we
Okay.
are declared up at the top level, it will take the at the constructor level value. Okay, Mahesh? In that way,
క్లియర్.
we have any
అదే
question?
విధంగా మనకు ఒక 10 మెథడ్స్ ఉన్నాయనుకోండి, M1 M2 M3 అట్లా. లాస్ట్ లో మనం ఏదైతే మెన్షన్ చేస్తుంటామో ఐ వాల్యూ అదే కదా తీసుకుంటుంది ఆ విధంగా.
Last in the sense means it is not like that. So how system know in which order I have to take? So in which order you are saying I have 10 methods. So I am writing this method first, then it will execute first. It is not like that, right? In which order you are calling? In which order you are calling? In that order
ఇన్స్టాన్స్
only.
మనం ఎట్లా క్రియేట్ చేస్తాం?
Yes, we created one instance. After that, we calling that method. Which method you are calling? That method it will take. So that method, what is the logic? Okay, that logic, based on that logic, it will take. Okay, Mahesh?
ఓకే ఓకే అండి, క్లియర్ అయింది.
Yeah. So just remember, I am declaring in this class first integer variable, next constructor variable, next we are writing method. Suppose I will just go and write one more method like integer m2. I will write one more method like this. Next I will just go and write one more method. Then in this order system it will execute. It is not like that. It is not like that. So first I am trying to calling this method, then which one it will execute? Constructor, yes. Then the next one is I have two methods are there, which one it will execute first? Whatever you are calling, how you will call? By using reference variable, right? AOA is equals to new A. Then within this line it will call the constructor. Then what about this method? Which method it will execute? M1 method or M2 method? Suppose I will call OA dot M2 means yes, it will execute M2 method first. Suppose I will call OA dot M1 means then it will execute M1 method. We are specified in this order, so in this order only it will execute. It is not like that. Okay, we are calling the methods in which order you are calling, that order only it will execute. Okay, that order
So
only
what
it will
that method you are defining, that is not related, like which method you are calling, based on that scenario only it will take the values, right?
Yes, Siva. In which
You can define any order, right? After if I define some 10 methods, I can call like in any way, like I can call 10th one first, and then 8th, and then second.
yes, yes.
But
Siva.
if you define a string, like what do you call this, static, so appudu then how it will take, Ramesh garu?
Yeah, how you are calling? Static is nothing but calling is same thing, but memory only. Whenever we are coming into the memory, only one copy it will create. Okay, throughout the transaction. But execution is same. Which method you are calling? That one only it will take the. So I'm calling instance variable instance method. Now I'm calling static method. Static method first it will execute. It is not like that. Okay,
Okay.
execution is the same thing. Backend memory is wasting or memory is not wasting. Okay, that's the related to the static. Okay.
Okay.
రమేష్ గారు ఇంకొక చిన్న డౌట్ అండి. ఇప్పుడు M3 అనేది ఇంకొక మెథడ్ క్రియేట్ చేయండి, చెప్తాను. దాంట్లో పారామీటర్స్ ఒకటి వచ్చి స్ట్రింగ్ ఇవ్వండి, స్ట్రింగ్ వాల్యూ ఎస్, ఓకే, ఇంటీజర్ ఐ ఇవ్వండి, అండ్ బులియన్ బి ఇవ్వండి. ఇప్పుడు మనకి రిటర్న్ టైప్ ఏది వస్తుందండి?
No, return type not based on this one. So you are taking three inputs from me. You are based on that input perform business logic. So why you are taking these three inputs? So you will perform some logic. So based on your logic, you will write. Finally, it will give the output. What is the output? Suppose I will take C here. For example, I am trying to call him. M3 is there, right? Okay. OA dot M3. The input is not based on, the result is not based on this one. Result in the sense means the return type. The return type is based on our logic. What we want. Why we are writing this method? Why we are taking these three parameters? Okay. For example, string test. Okay. And the next one is integer 10. Boolean I am trying to calling it as a false. My requirement is, okay, my requirement is, if yes, if conditions not yet discussed, we'll discuss. If yes equals to, yes equals to test, if s is equals to test, then return, okay, then return false, okay. For example, so whether it is depending on this one, or for example return 1, I will just go and put like integer, okay. For example, if s is equals to some other thing, if integer I is equal to some other value, then I want to perform some logic, finally I will give the output. So the result is not based on, so we are giving string here, we are giving integer, we are giving boolean, okay, based on that only the result it will come. So either string or either integer, either boolean, it is not like that. For example, I will just go and return here like id, okay, id here I will just go and give it return id here. So it is, we are taking the input from the user. You are one user, you are calling this method. While calling, you are passing some data. Based on that data, I will perform some logic. Finally, I will generate output. That output is of any type. Okay, Mahesh?
క్లియర్ అండి. మనం ఇఫ్
Next,
కండిషన్స్ కానీ లూప్స్ కానీ ఏమైనా యూస్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు మన బిజినెస్ లాజిక్ మొత్తం ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అయినప్పుడు ఫైనల్ రిజల్ట్ ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో అది మనకి రిటర్న్ టైప్ అవుతుంది.
yes, that return type should not be only string or integer or boolean, whatever it may be. I am giving something to you. You can do anything with that. Finally, it will some output. It will come. That output is which type? That type here you have to mention. Okay, Mahesh?
ఓకే సార్, అది కొంచెం కన్ఫ్యూజన్ అని ఉండే. థ్యాంక్ యూ అండి.
Okay, fine. So
No,
now
Ramesh, one
coming,
more.
yes.
This if you are defining OA.m2, AOA.m1, like in series, if you are defining OA.m3, when you are running executing this function, no, like what will be the final output? It will be OA.m3, whatever it is that will be output, or like it will show all the three.
All the three. Here my question is, why it is called, why we are using final output? M1 is separate method. It will perform some business logic. Okay. M2 is separate method. Okay. There is no
Yes,
relationship
right.
here. You have to observe,
Yeah.
there is no relation. So here I am adding two members. Here I am removing, subtracting two members. Here I am doing multiplication two members.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to calling this method, I'm calling this method, I'm calling this method, I'm calling this is giving it result, it will, this method it will give this result, this method it will give this result. So finally this class is performing some operations. One operation I'm writing one method, for another operation I'm writing one method, for another operation I'm writing one method. Suppose you want
But when you are using, a static integer or static, like
yes,
whatever you have said, is static will be the latest value, whichever is the latest, right?
yeah, whichever that is the latest value.
Yeah, if I'm
Static
calling a
wherever
function,
you are.
yeah, sorry.
Yes, yes, Shiva, please.
If I'm calling, like, say, if I'm calling in a manner like M1, M3, and M2, and I'm executing the function, okay? The link what I established is method M1, then M2, then M3. It is the scenario how it needed to update it, right? So now when you are executing the function, and you are executing in a different way, M1, M3, and M2. M2 is the latest one, right? So then which value it will take? The static value which will take?
Static value. Yes, last one you are trying to calling, right? That is the last.
Yeah.
Okay. That is the last one. Okay. You are talking about, I will declare one variable, static variable, M1, M2, M3, I will declare. Okay. So which order you are calling? Okay, first M2 method it will call. Okay. M2 method it will call. M2 method it will perform business logic and it will store some value. Okay. Now the same value you are using in M3 also. Here it is performing. So finally M3 method you are calling, M3 method you are performing your operation. That is the final output.
No, if I call after M3, M2, if I call M2 after M3, is that
whatever
possible?
You are latest last one you are calling, right? Okay, you for example you are trying to declaring here static variable. Okay, static variable. Okay, static integer k is equals to assume that 10. Okay, here it is k is equals to assume that k is equal to 12. Here k is equals to after not written we will not, k is equals to 13. Okay, here k is equals to 14. Okay, then which one you are calling? M1 is calling first or M3? What is the your order? So M3, M2, M1 or M3? So M1 now you are trying to calling M1, right? Now you
Yeah.
are trying to calling M1 at the last. So what is the latest value for this one? K is equal to 12. So all this value it will remove the system and it will put to 12 only. Right, Shiva?
Yeah, it's all about in which order and which is the latest one you are calling.
Yes, that is static. Okay, that is coming because we are using same variable only, right? Throughout the transaction.
Not only definition but also function calling also is more important.
Yes.
Got it, Ramesh.
Yeah. Now coming into our concept. Okay, coming into our concept. Any other questions, please let me know. Okay, we will go slowly only, no issues. Once you are clear all these syntaxes, then it is very easy for us. Okay, this is my class. Okay, this is my class. Okay, now I have another class. Here no new concept. Class, variable, constructor, okay, method, another method. Now I have another class B. Okay, in class B my requirement is I want to call I variable. How to call I variable? Suppose I will ask call I variable in class B. Then what we have to do? We have to check first it is a static variable or instance variable. Yes, it is a instance variable. Then what we have to do? Instance variable in the sense means new a. Okay, new a. Then go to here, we have to create an instance, any name here, and the reference is the name is nothing but a oa dot I. Okay, we are trying to call it, we are trying to creating an instance and we are trying to calling that particular variable. Suppose I want to call m1 method, oa.m1 method. Okay, suppose I want to call m2 method, oa.m2 method. Okay, oa.m2 method. Suppose we want to call particular variable or a particular method, then we will go and create an instance and we will call it right. Okay, my requirement is I want to use complete functionality of a. Whatever the variables are there in the a, whatever the methods are there in the a, whatever the everything whatever there in the a, I want that functionality. That functionality in B class also I will use some other functionality. So complete functionality I want to get automatically. I will not create any instance. I want complete functionality of a, not only a variable, not only m1 method. Then what we have to do is we will use extends keyword. We are inheriting that particular class a. Then a class is a parent class, B class is a child class. Whatever there here, it will automatically complete functionality of a. We are inheriting into B. We are getting into B. So that is nothing but extends. Extends is a keyword. Here extends is a keyword. Okay, suppose we have to inherit. Okay, suppose we have to inherit. Okay, some other class functionality. Okay, then we will just go and use extends keyword. What is the difference between this one and this one? Suppose we want to get complete functionality, whatever there in the a, I want to get, or you want to get only particular variable or particular method. Suppose I want to get particular variable, yes, we will just go and create an instance. Okay, and this is not a static variable, right? That's why you have to go and create an instance and you have to call it. Suppose static variable is there in the sense means no need to create any instance. A dot that variable name, I dot, directly we have to call it. Just remember, suppose we want to get complete functionality of any class, then we will just go and use extends keyword. Extends, then which class functionality you want? A class functionality. So after that, then there is no need to create. Directly I will just go and use system.debug, system.debug, I value. I value is, see, I value plus I. So directly it will come because of we are inheriting. Here I is there. Then I'm using the same value here. That is nothing but extends. This is a parent. This is a parent and this is a child. We have lookup and master detail, right? So one is parent and another one is child, right? The same thing. I want to get complete functionality of A, then we will just go on to extends that class. Extends is a keyword. Which class you want to extend? This is nothing but parent, then automatically we will get that functionality here. Okay. This just remember extends. Remember the difference clearly. I want to get complete functionality or I want to get particular variable. Suppose we want to get particular variable only. So then how we are going to create? First we have to check that is the instance variable or not. If instance variable means a dot I only. If not instance variable, we have to create an instance that is only the mechanism. If not instance variable, that is not instance variable or not instance, sorry, that is not a static variable and that is not a static method. That is not a static method, sorry, that is not a static method and that is not a static variable. Then what is the process? We have to create instance that is only the mechanism. We have to create instance that is only the mechanism. Okay, suppose I want complete functionality means extends only. Okay, any confusion here? Any confusion? Okay, now coming into another topic, that is nothing but access modifiers. Okay, access modifiers, access modifiers. Okay, access modifiers is nothing but global. Just remember our programming language, Salesforce programming language is nothing but Apex programming language. There is no difference. It is not a case sensitive. Suppose I will write a small letter like a capital letter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That is, it is not a case sensitive. It is not a case sensitive. Apex programming language is not a case sensitive. Access modifiers is nothing but global, global, and the next one is public, the next one is public, and the next one is private, and the next one is protected. Okay, protected. The next one is protected. There is no default. In other programming language, default access modifiers is there, but in Apex programming there is no default. There is no default access modifier. We have to remember what are the access modifiers. We have to say global, public, private, protected. Okay, now coming into the class, what are there? We have class, right? Then the next one is what? Variables, right? Variables. Before that, what is the next one? Constructor, right? Constructor, right? Okay, constructor, right? Then what is the next one? Variables, right? Then what is the next one? Methods, right? Okay, methods. Now coming into here, so I'm writing one class. See, class demo class. Okay, demo class, and this is my name. For class, okay, whenever we are writing a class at the class level, we should use public or global. Okay, whenever we are writing a class, for the class we should use either public or global access modifier at the class level, which is applicable only public or global. Suppose I will not write anything. For example, I will write like this: class demo class, and here whenever I am trying to saving, then the system, it will display error message, boss, you are just writing a class, you have to use any access modifier. So now your question is, boss, here in up to now we wrote one class, we executed it, we are executing, we are not saving. You observed? Okay, this is execute anonymous window. In execute anonymous window, we are writing some syntaxes and we are trying to executing. I am not saving the code. So whenever we are writing a class, the class access modifier should be either public or global. public or global. Suppose I will not write anything for the class, then the system it should display an error message. It will not allow us to save. This is wrong. This is wrong. Okay, either this one or this one. Either this one or this one. So first point is class should be public or global access modifier. Global access modifiers. When we will use public and when we will use the global? That is my next question. That is my next question. Okay, the first one is access modifiers are global, public, private, protected. Okay, protected. Top of the class, I mean class we should use either public or global access modifier. We have to use it. We have to use. Suppose I will not use anything, I'm trying to saving this one, then the system it will display an error message. An error message.
Ramesh garu,
Any question? Yeah, sure.
Ramesh one doubt actually. So this access modifier nothing but like to whom application can be accessed, to whom, like for sales, marketing. Is that the way? Like what is this access modifiers? Who can access my page? Who cannot access my page?
It's not related to that one. Okay, it's not
Okay.
related to that, and I'm implementing one functionality. Okay, for that functionality I'm writing one class. Okay, how we are going to implement that functionality? We have to write a programming, right? We have to write a
Yeah.
programming. That programming, I'm writing a programming, I'm writing one apex class. Okay, that apex class, where we will use, okay. So any another apex class will use my apex class, or any application, not only Salesforce, outside or outside Salesforce also is there. That Salesforce external application will also access my application. Okay, that it will come related to the access modifier. In the sense means, so who will access your application means, who will access any other application will also access your apex class, or no, in my sandbox whatever the apex classes, whatever the applications are there, applications only will access my apex class. That is related, we'll discuss once completed one, then you will understand clearly. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay, first of all, access modifiers are global, private, protected, public. At the top of the class, we should use either public or global. Okay, either public or global. Suppose we will not use anything and we are trying to saving, then the system it will display an error message. So then the next one is when we are going to use public, when we are going to use public, okay, and when we are going to use global to the apex class. I'm writing one class. This is my class. Okay. This is my class. This is my class, and this is my Salesforce sandbox or production environment or another environment. This is my class, and this is another class. This is another class. This is another class. This is another class. You are writing one class like public. This class functionality shall we use here? Shall we use here? Shall we use here? Within the instance, how to use, forget about that. We wrote one class. Now I want to use that class in another class. That class is also in my sandbox. Class A is there, class B is there, class C is there, class D is there. Five classes are there. Five classes are there. Okay, class Z is there. Class Z is there. Okay, class Z is there. So class B, class C, class D, class wants to use this class. Which class? A. This is B, this is C, this is E, this is X. These are the class. I have another class that is nothing but Z class. Z class is there. This is in Java. This is in Java. So now B class wants to use this A class. C class wants to use this one. This one wants to use this one. This one wants to use this one. So all this B class is where? In our sandbox only, right? So any class which is available in our instance, so that class wants to use this class, then we have to declare as a public. Suppose this class is their A class. This A class wants to access by the another application. Another application is nothing but here some other classes are there, anything. Some other application wants to access this class. Some other application is nothing but outside of the Salesforce. How outside of the Salesforce applications will connect to our Salesforce, will access, that is related to integration. Forget about that. What finally I am trying to say is, you declared one class. Suppose we declared as a public, then only within your sandbox all that class is accessible anywhere. Okay, we can access that class from anywhere within the sandbox. Suppose I want to use that class outside of the Salesforce, then we have to use global. Any questions? Any questions? How to connect? Forget about that. Only two things. You are declaring one class as a public, then what does that mean? Within the instance, we can, within our Salesforce sandbox, we can access that class from anywhere. How to access? We have to create an instance and we have to access. Suppose I declared one class, that class I want to access from external application. I have one Java application. From the Java application, I will connect with your Salesforce. From that, I have to access. Then that class should be a global. Then that class should be a global. Whenever we will declare a class as a public, then that should be accessible within the instance from anywhere. Within the instance, we can access from anywhere. Suppose we want to access that class from outside of the Salesforce. How outside system will connect, that is different case. So in your Salesforce sandbox, I have one class bus. We have to access your Java application. You have to access. First, I have to connect, and how to connect, that is different case. We'll discuss. So once all setup has done, then I want to access your class. Suppose you will use public, then I will say, boss, your class is not available for me. You have to use global access modifier. Yes. So outside of the Salesforce, we want to access, then global. Now coming into constructor. Constructor is what? Demo class, right? Same name as a class name, right? Whatever is there for the class, same it is applicable. Suppose here I will use public and here I will use global, then it will display error message, boss, you are using at the top of the class public, but at the constructor level you are using global. Then I will display an error message. So whatever is there at the top of the class, whatever is there at the class level access modifier, the same access modifier we have to use to the constructor. Here I'm using global, right? Now coming into here, for constructor also global demo class, see here, global demo class. Okay, suppose I will use here public, here I will use global, here I will use global, here I will use public. In the sense means it will display an error message. So for class constructor, we should use public or global access modifier. Whatever is we are using at the class level, we should use at the constructor level on. Constructor level also we have to use the same thing. So remaining thing like variables and methods we'll discuss in the next session. Okay.
Ramesh garu, one doubt actually. Can you go to that global and
Yes.
public? See, like one example, whether this is, see, if let us take an example of the bank. Okay. So only my yeah.
Yes, you are.
Only my account number, my personal details can be accessed by the manager and myself. But this should not be seen to the sales guy or like this clerk or whoever, the other staff. Only the basic information they can know is my name, my father name, if at all my phone number or mail ID. But they cannot access my personal details like Aadhaar, PAN, whatever it is. Okay.
Okay. Shiva,
But
here
yeah.
they want to access, for example, assume that sales representative or sales manager wants to access. Okay, that is, assume that you want to access some fields. Okay, how they will access? First of all, they will create, while creating a record only, right?
Yes.
While creating a record. Record means fields. How we will relate it to that field to this one Apex class? There is no relationship. Fields is nothing but profile level.
Okay.
So this business logic, how it is related to the Salesforce object, not yet linked. So in
Okay.
the
Okay.
my first name field is there, last name field is there, and now in the class also I have first name, last name. It is not like that. It is not like that. Sales representative trying to accessing one record. Record means what? Fields. Fields how we have to control by using profiles. Here there is no
Okay.
concept of why we have to write Apex class. That we'll discuss. That time you will understand how we are linking.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
we are
That is my thing actually. Yeah. Apex, why we are reading?
no. just remember, still we are not entered into the Salesforce. It is
Okay.
basic syntax. We are not linking to the object. Just observe, there is no account, there is no contact, there is no object, there is no field. So
Sure,
here I'm
sure.
using first name, so it is related to the first name field. It is not like that. Still, we are not entered into the Salesforce. So after 1 or 2 sessions, we will enter into the Salesforce. Okay.
Sure, sure. But thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah, thanks. We'll go one by one. Ajay, any